You sit at the banquet, but you are not the guest. You are the meat. The goblets clink. Laughter folds around you like silk soaked in poison. She smiles not with her mouth, but with her patience. Her voice praises your strength, your virtue, your foresight. And as you nod, basking in the velvet warmth of her approval, you don't feel the iron chain tightening around your neck. It's not forged of iron, no. It's sewn from compliments, laced with softness, pulled tighter each time you forget to question why you are being fed like a lamb before the feast. She gives you what no enemy ever could, the illusion that you are feared, when you are merely used. You were not seduced, you were recruited, and the man who cannot survive without applause will never see the knife until it glides through the spine. If this whisper already knows, you let it echo, like the video. Leave your shadow in the comments, subscribe, and stay near the silence. Now lean closer. Let me tell you what happens to men who mistake praise for power. A woman's praise is not a gift, it is a leash disguised as a crown. She tells you you're different, smarter than the rest, gentler, kinder, the kind of man who listens, the kind of man who understands. You smile because it feels rare, like you've been chosen, but you don't notice what's been stolen in the same breath. It was not your mind she desired, it was your willingness to bend. She praises the part of you most pliable, most agreeable, most ready to betray your own instincts just to keep the praise flowing. You don't see it yet, but the moment you respond with warmth, you hand her the key to the gate you never thought to lock. You begin adjusting yourself. Softer tone, nicer words, more silence when she speaks, less confrontation when she turns cold. You think this is intimacy, but it is theater, and you are no longer acting, you are the costume. She tightens the collar with every compliment. She teaches you how to obey with elegance. The leash never looks like a chain, it looks like loyalty. It smells like affection. It sounds like, "You're such a good man," and you will ruin yourself to keep earning that sentence again. The worst traps are the ones you think you earned. You believed power was in your choices, but you didn't notice how your choices were being curated. What she praised, you repeated. What she ignored, you buried. What she feared, you apologized for. She never told you what to become. She simply removed her warmth from everything she didn't want. That was enough. You trained yourself. She never had to ask twice. Your ambition shrinks to fit her comfort. Your danger dulls beneath her smile. Your rebellion is paused by the question, "Are you angry at me?" You thought this was peace, but the man who lives to be called gentle is already gelded. She never feared your strength, only your unpredictability, and once you were predictable, you were no longer desired. She smiled when you bent, but she only truly loved the part of you that resisted the part you gave away just to be safe. Now you serve her, not with your body, not with your love, with your self-censorship, your restraint, your politeness, your softness. The masculine edge ground down into harmless marble, a statue she polishes, but never kneels before. You think you are honored. You are decorated like a servant is decorated, dressed well so no one sees the cage. The praise doesn't nourish you, it numbs you, and still, you keep performing for it. You tell yourself you're respected, but you are only safe because you no longer threaten. You are tolerated because you have been tamed. She is not afraid of you, and that is the greatest humiliation of all. If you disappeared, she'd replace you with another man just as kind, just as noble, just as easy to control. You're not rare, you're repeatable, because what she wanted wasn't you, it was your compliance. Your compliance just happened to wear your face. The man she loves is always the one who hasn't bowed yet. But she'll reward you anyway, not with her body, but with her reassurance. She'll pet you like a loyal dog and call it intimacy. She'll say, "You're not like the other men," and you'll believe her because you need to, You can't face the truth that her praise is not an elevation, it's a tranquilizer. You don't feel the cut because the knife is dipped in honey. You still think you're winning. You still think you're a king. You wear the leash like a crown. You hear her voice in your head when you make decisions. You imagine her reaction before you speak. You edit your strength down to something digestible, a version of yourself she'll praise again. You think this is growth, but it is only grooming. You've become a man who censors himself to keep a woman smiling. You don't realize the collar until it tightens. You don't realize it until the day you finally resist even slightly and she freezes. Her eyes narrow. Her praise disappears. She withdraws not in anger, but in calculation. She's testing to see if the leash has slackened, if you still flinch when she frowns, if your apology arrives without her having to speak. You think the relationship is in crisis, but for her, it's just quality control. She's checking to see if you're still useful. And so you say sorry again and again. You silence your instinct again. You kill the heat in your voice, the edge in your will, the part of you that once roared. You bury it beneath performance because the fear of losing her is stronger than your memory of being a man. You don't want her love, you want her approval. The two are not the same. One loves you for who you are. The other rewards you for who you pretend to be. She will never leave you. She doesn't need to. She's already erased you. You wonder why you're exhausted, why your drive is gone, why you feel numb in your own skin. And it's because you've been conditioned to shrink. The more praise you receive, the smaller you become. She no longer needs to criticize. She has trained you to do it yourself. And you call this maturity. You mistake obedience for virtue. You are afraid of becoming the kind of man she warned you about, the cold ones, the selfish ones, the dangerous ones. But those were the only men she ever truly remembered. And in quiet moments, when she thinks you aren't listening, those are the names she whispers. You thought praise meant safety, but the man praised too often by a woman forgets how to fight. And the man who forgets how to fight will one day watch her walk away into the arms of someone unafraid to be hated. You can't fix it by being more agreeable. You can't reclaim her desire by earning more approval. Every inch you move toward her, every compromise, every gesture, every softened tone is another link in the leash. She wanted the lion, not the lapdog. And the moment you behaved well enough to be loved was the moment you ceased to be. Now you sit still, tamed, praising yourself for being praised, chained in velvet, crowned in silence. Women do not desire safe men. They desire dangerous men who act like actors so they can control the script. You think she wants honesty, but she feeds on mystery. Not the kind that hides, but the kind that holds a knife behind a curtain and smiles like nothing's wrong. You gave her comfort, and she yawned. You gave her devotion, and she turned away. But the moment you went silent, the moment your eyes narrowed and your jaw tightened like a question too dangerous to ask, she looked again. Because now the air between you is charged. Because now she's uncertain, and uncertainty is the womb of obsession. She doesn't fear your violence. She fears your unpredictability. The man who speaks his every thought is safe, boring, sterile. The man who conceals not to manipulate, but because his inner world is deeper than words becomes mythic. You tried to be transparent, thinking it would win her loyalty, but she doesn't want to see through you. She wants to imagine what you might be capable of. Praise made her feel in control, but fear the erotic kind, the symbolic kind, the silent kind that makes her feel alive. You don't terrify her by shouting, you terrify her by not needing to. The stage is set in every relationship, and she watches closely to see who writes the lines. When you say, "What do you need?" you surrender the pen. When you say, "Here is what I expect," her eyes flicker, not because she agrees, but because she realizes the play is no longer hers. She will test your willingness to improvise. She'll cry when it suits her, accuse when it rattles you, withdraw when she senses you're regaining strength. She doesn't do this with malice. She does it instinctively. The woman who controls the narrative feels secure. But the man who controls the tone, he becomes unforgettable. So you begin to see the pattern, the one she never admits. She tells her friends she wants peace, but she stays with the storm. She preaches stability, but dreams of danger. Not chaos danger, controlled danger. A man who could destroy everything but chooses not to. That's the paradox that ruins her sleep. You were taught to be harmless, to remove your edge, to speak softly and never raise your voice. But she only respects men who could make her flinch and don't. Men who make her doubt and then dissolve that doubt with a glance. It's not abuse she craves, it's gravity. And gravity comes from fear. Not the fear of pain, the fear of losing power. You gave her power. She resented you for it. You treated her as the authority. She tested you like a child tests weak parents, not out of rebellion, but in hope you'd finally stop her. When you didn't, she mourned you without even knowing why. She said, "You're so good to me." But her eyes were already drifting toward the man in the corner who didn't ask her approval before moving. He wasn't kinder, he wasn't smarter, he was simply unbothered. She watches men the way an actress watches the director. Who has the final cut, who sets the tempo, who can rewrite the scene without asking permission. You were the stagehand, not the lead. She was drawn to your predictability like a child to a nightlight. But she'll never follow the man who follows her. You don't lead with logic, you lead with presence. And presence is born from the absence of need. You thought desire was built on pleasing her, but it was your indifference the moments you stared into the distance as if there was something more important than her drama that pulled her closer. You think she's fragile, but she worships intensity. The man who says no without flinching, who smiles at her tears without panicking, who holds her gaze when she tries to provoke, that man doesn't calm her. He awakens her. She tries to destabilize him. He doesn't flinch. She tries to seduce him. He enjoys her, but he remains sovereign. She praises him. He hears it, but doesn't need it. She withdraws. He continues forward, unaffected. She cries. He listens, but he never surrenders the frame. And then she feels it. Not fear of him, fear of herself. Fear that she will not be enough to shake him. Fear that he sees through the costume. Fear that she is not the director, only the scene. And in that fear, desire returns. Desire dies where certainty lives. The man who acts like an actor is easy to read, but the man who acts with purpose, without signaling his lines, that man becomes myth. You tried to be sincere, and sincerity is noble. But she doesn't dream of sincerity. She dreams of dominance she can't quite decode. The quiet tyrant, the man with a calm voice and a locked jaw. She wants to provoke and be disarmed. She wants to challenge and be overruled. Not because she wants submission, but because she wants to believe someone is real enough to hold the fire without trembling. She needs to know you're dangerous, and more than that, that you know you are. You wear your kindness like armor, but it's too smooth. She touches it and finds nothing sharp, nothing that bites, nothing that warns. And so she begins to test you. She disrespects, not because she despises, but because she's trying to wake the sleeping wolf. If he wakes, she'll fall to her knees. If he doesn't, she'll walk away in silence. You are not losing her love. You are losing her theater. You failed to write a story worth fearing. She will call the new man toxic, but she will think of him while kissing you, because even in cruelty, he remained the author. And you just followed the script. You think she fears your anger, but it is your absence of boundaries that disgusts her more. She says, I want you to be vulnerable. What she means is, I want you to open the gates. But if there's nothing behind them but apology and obedience, she'll never knock again. The theater was never about you pleasing her. It was about her believing you had the power to destroy her and choosing not to. If you act like an actor, she controls the play. If you become the storm silent, coiled, sovereign, she forgets her lines. And when a woman forgets her lines, she finally looks at you, not as the safe man, but as the one she can't rewrite. The moment you are applauded, you are already replaceable. True power is hated, not clapped for. You enter the room and they smile. You speak and they nod. You rise and they cheer. You mistake this for power because you were raised by sheep who told you the wolf is evil. They taught you to seek praise, to perform virtue, to be agreeable, to be adored. And now, in your quiet moments, you wonder why you feel hollow even as the applause rings. You wonder why her eyes glaze over the longer you behave. Why every compliment feels like a countdown. Why the room that loves you always grows colder when you stop trying. Because the truth is simple. The man who is praised too often is not a man. He is a mascot, a product, a curated illusion of safety. You became what they wanted, and that means you can be replaced the moment someone performs your role better. The man who is loved for being good is always one better actor away from becoming irrelevant. You were not admired. You were consumed. You feel empty not because you failed, but because you succeeded. You did everything right. You pleased everyone. And now you are surrounded by sheep applauding their reflection in you. They don't see you. They see what you gave up to keep them smiling. Sheep praise what does not threaten. They bless what bows. They celebrate the neutered lion, the quiet giant, the smooth stone that was once a blade. They smile because you gave them your claws, and now they keep you in their pocket, safe and dull, ready to be summoned when they need a display of loyalty. But they do not fear you, and that is the death of desire. Sheep cannot love a man. They do not fear, not with terror, but with awe, the kind of fear that makes them question themselves, not because you are cruel, but because you are unshakable. A man who cannot be seduced by applause. A man who walks into a room and makes silence louder than cheers. That man, he is hated, and he is remembered. You thought being loved would save you, but love that depends on performance is slavery, and applause is just the sound of chains being polished. She tells you you're amazing. The world calls you noble. You smile. But beneath your breath, something cracks because you know none of them would follow you into darkness. They love you because you are harmless. They tolerate you because you agree. They praise you because you flatter their illusions. You are not a leader, you are a mirror, and mirrors shatter the moment someone stops looking. The crowd that claps for you today will mock you tomorrow if you stop serving their comfort. The woman who said, "You're my everything," will one day say, "You changed, not because you became cruel, but because you remembered your edge." Do you understand the price of applause? It's not your time, it's your truth. You learn to smile when you feel rage. You learn to soften your words when your blood burns. You learn to flatter her when your instinct says leave, because you are praised for your restraint, for your predictability, for being, as they call it, a good man. But a good man is not a free man, he is a rehearsed one, and she doesn't crave rehearsed, she craves real, and real does not beg for praise. You forget this. until the day you meet a man who is hated, not for cruelty, not for harm, but for refusing to bow. And you see how she watches him, not with comfort, but with fascination. He is not easy, he is not polished, but he is worshipped in silence, even by those who mock him aloud, because he makes them feel something they can't control. You made her feel safe, he made her feel alive. You became a monument to reliability, he became a memory she'll never admit. The sheep will never praise the wolf, not while he's watching, but when he leaves, they whisper about him, they wonder where he goes, they dream of his return. You are safe, he is sacred, so you must choose. Do you want their claps, or do you want their silence when you enter the silence that says, I don't understand him, but I can't ignore him? Do you want her praise, or do you want the kind of tension that keeps her awake at night, wondering what you'll do next? Wondering if she's enough. Wondering how you remain untouched. You cannot have both. The man who is clapped for is already dead. They are not clapping for you. They are clapping for their control over you. You became the man they wanted, but she desires the man she cannot predict. She wants the kind of man who could vanish and never explain. The kind of man who loves deeply but walks away without hesitation. The kind of man who does not perform and therefore cannot be replaced. You think rebellion means anger, but rebellion is silence in the face of praise. It is walking away when the room wants more of you. It is not just saying no, it is saying nothing and leaving anyway. They will call you arrogant. They will say, he changed. She will accuse you of coldness, but her breath will catch when you don't flinch. She will test your return, and when you don't come back, she will mourn you as a myth. Because deep down, she knows only the man who doesn't need her admiration can ever earn her devotion. And you sold your danger for comfort. You traded fire for flowers. You let her crown you, and now she pities the man kneeling beneath it. The man who is praised becomes the property of the crowd, but the man who is hated, he becomes legend. You wear their love like armor, but it rusts in the rain. You hold her praise like proof, but it slips through your hands the moment you bleed, and you will bleed. Not from wounds they cause, but from the emptiness that grows each time you fake a smile to keep the peace. You are not meant to be loved by all. You are meant to be remembered by the few who saw your flame and didn't run. You are not meant to be praised by sheep. You are meant to be feared by kings. And she was never looking for applause. She was waiting for the one man who could stand still in her storm, untouched, unbent, and unbothered. She does not want your performance. She wants your soul, but only if it remains yours. Somewhere, a crown lies in the mud, untouched. The throne beside it remains cold because no one dared sit without applause. She waits beside the fire, not calling your name, only listening. Will you return as a king, or will you crawl back as her echo? Let the silence answer.